I will not use the word flee for the UN staff because UN has protocols in a conflict context where the evolution and escalation of the conflict prevents the staff from doing their normal day-to-day job. So on the basis of that protocol, then you make a decision. If the fighting is such that the staff can go to their office, for example, or they have families, what is the justification for keeping them in that conflict context? So on that threshold, we make a decision. First level decision will be, are the jobs so critical that you need them present? If you say yes, they stay. And so it may well be that, for example, it's about delivering aid to people, even if in difficult conflict contexts, but they are needed to provide support to those people, they have to stay. If the job is not considered as critical in that moment, we'll take two actions. The first action is what we call an evacuation. Evacuation is usually for international staff. That's not their country of origin. So if you take them out, they have nowhere else to go except to their home countries. So you probably take them to their home country if it's close by. If it's not close by, to a third country. And from that third country, they immediately go to their home countries. So they will continue to work in their home countries. Whatever they were doing in location, they'll continue to do it remotely. Second decision is relocation. Relocation is for staff of the UN who are citizens of the country where the conflict is taking place. You can't just take them to a third country because you have no idea how long the conflict will last. So you relocate them to a safer part of their own country. So a number of staff were considered that their functions could be performed remotely and they were not critical to the work that the UN needed to be doing as this conflict was evolving. And so you either have to take them by road to another part of the country, in which case the road networks were no longer passable because of the fighting. You take them by air, but Goma airport has been closed because of the war. You take them by sea, but sea transport was no longer possible also because of the war. So it meant that the only safe option was overland to the border with Rwanda. And so first they had to obtain the permission of the government of DRC to relocate Congolese citizens through Rwanda back to Congo. And haven't obtained that permission, they sent me an official request. I received it at 1:25 a.m. And then I forwarded it to the government, two key leaders in government. In 15 minutes, I got approval. The government says, yes, they are staff of the UN. They're welcome to come pass through us, tell us what we need. We have all our people present to support the effort. And by 6 a.m. yesterday morning, on the Rwandan side of the border with Goma, full presence of institutions of the government of Rwanda. Full presence from the security, police, RIB, MINEMA, DGIE, you name them. By the time I myself arrived in Rubavu yesterday morning, all the government presence was there already. They had processed people in 10 buses that already had left for Kigali. And 10 buses would be like around 600-700 already had left for Kigali. And then throughout the day, they kept processing people, kept putting them in buses, kept sending them to Kigali. And then as they arrived in Kigali, they were received at the King Pele Stadium. If you came to the King Pele Stadium yesterday, we also had full presence of institutions of the government of Rwanda. The Inspector General of Police was leading a coordination cell. We had people from DJE, from Foreign Affairs. The PS Foreign Affairs was head of the reception party there. You bring them in, you process them, you categorize them, name, husband, wife, children, number of people, in what party, which UN agency, all of those details collected immediately. They put them in buses, and Rwanda Convention Bureau was there as well, making an arrangement with hotels and take them to hotels. So by the time the last group left Rubavu around 6 p.m. yesterday, but they were processed yesterday when they got to Kigali and put in hotels. And then we had several UN staff, UN Rwandan citizens, who volunteered as part of the UN system in Rwanda to support our fellow Congolese UN staff members who were working there with government institutions to make this as seamlessly as possible. By the time they all left King Pele, it was like 3 a.m. this morning that they left King Pele Stadium and put them in hotels. So the numbers that I have as at that early this morning was 1,832 UN staff and dependents. I cannot give you the total number of staff because our staff are still cleaning up the data. We want to know who is staff member, spouse, or dependent, and children, who are the other dependents. They're cleaning it up, categorizing it, but I'm sure that before the end of today, we'll have the numbers together with government. Now, I not want to say that today, some people on their own have found their way to Rwanda who are also UN staff. So I think they probably managed to escape to the border when in Rubavu, have come to Kigali, have now been processed. Some are being processed as we speak right now, and they're going to be put in hotels. So the first thing for me to say is that the United Nations system, the country team in Rwanda, is deeply grateful to the government of Rwanda and its institutions. One, the rapidity of the decision, because things like that are matters of life and death. So to make that decision quickly was a recognition that if you don't and there's some delay on the other side, the fighting might get to where they are, they could be killed. So the rapidity of the decision needs to be appreciated. But the expansiveness of the presence, there was no government of Rwanda institution that was needed that was not present there. The expansiveness of the presence is extremely impressive. So you're looking for anybody, they were there at King Pele Stadium. This morning, the PS Foreign Affairs and myself convened a coordination meeting. All the government institutions were there, even those in charge of transport. Because now you need to move people from hotels to airports. RCB was there. So how do you move people to airport? Do you check names, or do you take people who are based in hotels? So you take everybody in one hotel, you close out the hotel. That degree, that minutiae of thinking and planning, the specificity that we need to make sure if we start with one hotel, we'll finish it. So if you have buses, take people from one location to the airport. You don't have a bus, it goes from hotel to hotel, picking people, waste time, flights might get delayed, and people then will start asking, but why did you take this person, why didn't you take me? So the planning was to that specific degree that if you want to empty one hotel, everybody in that hotel, because family members are placed together as well, take them to the airport, you put them on the flights. So now the UN system in DRC is making arrangements on the flights. We still retain hope that it's possible that at least one flight will leave today. But that's the decision that beyond me to be made by my counterparts in the DRC. But if not, there'll be several flights tomorrow, hopefully. And our hope is that in the coming days, this week, all of our colleagues who work for the UN system in Goma would have been relocated back to their home country where they can continue their work remotely. So I want to say hats off. Total, complete thanks, complete appreciation to the institutions, the government. I don't know where to start mentioning names. There were just too many. So if I want to mention all the institutions, the government of Rwanda, it would take all the time for this interview. So let me just thank the government and the institutions for all the support that they have provided. Because imagine people like that, people have shown up on their own to a hotel. No hotel will take you in without ID document. No hotel will take you in without money. You have to show a card or some cash, so then they will receive you. But Rwanda Convention Bureau reached out to a number of hotels, says, take them in, we assure you, you're going to get paid. This is a UN issue. We'll work with the UN to make sure you get paid, give them the list of names. So they're in 34 hotels as we speak, they're all placed in. We have UN protocols now for when our staff are out of location in this kind of context. And so our protocols are going to apply to make sure that all the hotels get paid. In some of these contexts, things happen so rapidly that the affected persons don't have time to go look for their ID documents. So some of the issues we have right now are actually that quite a number don't have ID documents. But the government has been extremely constructive in working with us to find solutions. I don't want to speak more in detail, but the government has been very, very constructive in finding a workable solution that recognizes the situation in which they are, but that allows us to work together with our colleagues in the UN in the DRC and with the receiving government to enable people to travel. Now we created an operational cell here in WFP premises, which will allow, because you can't keep people at King Pele Stadium waiting. So that operational cell will allow, because they are UN staff, if they contact us, we have a base that where we can then say to government, we have X numbers, and the government mechanisms can kick in. I can't speak on the nature of the fighting because that's not my area of expertise. How the system works is that the UN system in DRC will always reach out to me and say, we want to evacuate staff. These are potential numbers. Can you please request permission of your government? Then I will reach out to our government to get permission. And our government will get into strong coordination with us and with my colleagues in DRC. I agree on time and numbers and things like that. Then our government will make all the basic arrangements, reception point, security. Yesterday there was full security in the location where they were. So they were fully protected. We had police, we had military, we had a strong security presence. And the convoys were accompanied by military police all the way to Kigali. From Rubavu to Kigali, all the convoys. So convoys moved in groups for like 5, 7, 8, 10 cars, like 10 cars, full accompaniment of security to Kigali, from Rubavu to Kigali. That's what happened. So if we're going to have more crossings and relocations, it will be coordinated very well with the government. Right now, I don't know. I am not aware of UN staff who have succumbed. What I do know is that quite a number of those who came already had pre-existing medical conditions. A number of the women were pregnant. Some of the people who came had issues somewhere in clutches, which meant they had existing medical conditions. There were many children, so a significant number of children. Usually, every conflict situation is traumatizing for children, and you wish that it doesn't happen. But from a UN perspective, UN staff and dependents, no matter the condition of the dependents, we have an obligation to look after the staff and their dependents and to help the relocation. The institutions of the government of Rwanda were very efficient, they were very effective. They moved them in. Once the first buses arrived, they were prioritizing women and children and those with medical conditions, putting them in the buses, taking them all the way to Kigali. So if they needed additional medical care, we had the UN staff clinic that were there also. We had people from health facilities who were present. If anybody needed to go to hospital, they will. My colleagues from WFP are now arranging for a psychosocial counselor because human beings, you see trauma, it impacts you. So for those that might need counseling, we have WFP facilities, we will provide those. Usually it's supposed to be a confidential process, so the person can talk to a counselor in peace. So I can't speak more about that, but that's something we are working on as well to make that facility available. Thank you, Rwanda. Thank you to the leadership of the government. Thank you for the excellent cooperation. Thank you for the commitment. By the time we left Rubavu, they were still there. So they waited. And the Director General for Customs and Immigration, she was there personally from beginning to the end, Commissioner of Police. There are so many high-level government present. Some I don't know, so I can't mention their names, but I want to acknowledge the role of different institutions the government played. Minister for Minema was there, PS Minema was there. So all I can say is thank you for that outstanding degree of cooperation with the United Nations system to make it a seamless passage for UN staff who were coming through from Goma. It's deeply appreciated by the UN country team, Kigali.